President Trump has been impeached. Brexit's a real thing. Iran and the United States stand on the brink of war. Protests in Hong Kong continue, and Australia is burning. My guess is your question is, so what's going to happen at this Saturn-Pluto conjunction? Not exciting enough for you, huh? Waiting for Godzilla to storm out of the ocean and take Tokyo or something like that? Maybe it'll happen. Who knows? At the end of the week, we have a big... we have so many different things going on at the end of the week. It's very hard to get a handle on. We have a lunar eclipse. We have on a Uranus station on Friday, and we have the Saturn-Pluto conjunction on Sunday, coming up Sunday the 12th. But well, first of all, these things have already been in orb for quite some time, and they are triggered from, I would say, at least Thursday onwards. So if you need a little practical advice for this week, we're going to take a little bit of a different approach this week. If we're going to have a little bit of practical advice this week, if something needs to get done, you want to get it done early. Nice little moon in Gemini kind of thing through Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's your opportunity to get stuff done. I would say that we're still really jangled. It's not the easiest energy regardless, but if you're going to try to get something done, you want to get it done sometime before Wednesday. Thursday, the moon moves into Cancer, where it's always a little bit protective, a little bit cautious, and with the storm that is brewing, we're going to be feeling it very directly. So on Friday, we have the Uranus station. Now, Uranus stations are times when people usually get a little edgy. They don't want to feel contained. Everybody wants to go do their own thing. It's like you don't want to wait online when there's a Uranus station. In a larger sense, you want to be yourself. You want to be your true self and things like that. But really, for many of us, it just comes up. You don't want to wait online. You're sick and tired of being stuck in traffic and that kind of thing. Edginess usually shows up. I mean, it's a great opportunity to really push yourself forward and do your own thing if that's what you're doing. But be aware that a lot of people will just be edgy, especially so because it's also a lunar eclipse. And this lunar eclipse is in the sign of Cancer, and that will up the energy of the Uranus station, and it will also create a sort of protective vibe. Again, there's a little edginess that comes when we have a lot of energy in the sign of Cancer. I know you like to think Cancer's all apple pie and doing things nicely and all that. There's very protective energy, very clannish energy about the sign of Cancer. And that's going to be showing up strong this week, especially as the moon will oppose the Sun, Saturn, Pluto in series over the course of the 10th and 11th. So there's 9th, 10th, and 11th. So there's a real big buildup of energy. It is already triggering the Saturn, Pluto, Mercury, Sun series conjunction of the weekend. And so very high energy, and I would say that there is an explosive potential to this. It's a full moon lunar eclipse with a Uranus station, and then this boiling energy in Capricorn happening at the same time. And actually, this boiling energy in Capricorn is also square to the planet Eris, the cosmic troublemaker. It's more complicated than just being the cosmic troublemaker, but for our purposes here, we'll just say unrest, discord. Eris is the planet of discord. So most of that Capricornian stuff plays out on the world level, and there's plenty to look at, as I've already listed just a few of the things that are big at the global level. You'll also see them in more local politics, and you'll see them in your individual interactions with people at work, socializing, and so on. Very volatile time. Saturn-Pluto conjunction itself, well, we're talking about the end and beginning of a cycle that lasts about 36 years. So it's not exactly the case that this is a gonna happen today type of thing. We've already been in the midst of this energy. I've said this pretty much every week for a while now. We're already in the midst of this energy and have been for a while. By declination, getting to the same celestial latitude, Saturn and Pluto have already been conjunct. So there is a great deal of what's happening already on the table, not necessarily anything new. The fact that the Sun and Mercury come in and touch this conjunction suggests, along with the Uranus station and the Sol and the lunar eclipse, that we will in fact see immediate results. But those immediate results imply and set the tone for much more longer lasting changes. So this is not a thing of the moment, even though it is something happening in the moment. So how do you handle this? You know, there's a lot to say about this, and we're just doing a weekly forecast over here. The larger cycles of Saturn and Pluto, which have to do with major social and political realignments, the sort of thing that, you know, the Cold War was a Saturn-Pluto alignment. That's that scale of things. What can we do this week? What can you do this week in your life? Now, I am not one of those astrologers that says, well, when things get rough, you should go hide under the bed. I said, you know, there's always opportunity in the midst of challenges. And this is, you know, certainly the case now. It is not the time to stand still like a deer in the headlights. You know, on the other hand, you don't want to be a deer in the headlights, but if you don't have to cross the road this week, maybe that's a better time not to do so. Maybe later in the week, maybe the period from Thursday through Sunday and into Monday of next week is a time to sort of back off from things. Let things play out on the world stage. Recognize that people are just too jumpy. There's too much Brownian movement in the collective consciousness to really be able to settle anything out. It's a good time to sort of bear witness. It's a good time to be as mindful as possible. Notice what's coming up for yourself. Notice what's coming up for yourself. Notice what's happening in your life. See what's going on. Do understand it to be part of a larger picture. Don't assume that you can see the entire picture, but do assume that it is part of a larger picture and kind of honor that and try to bring it in as much as possible. Be as aware as possible. It's always good advice, but it's especially good advice in the midst of an astrological storm like this. I would suggest it actually is time to hold off on new projects. It is time to hold off on things. If you're 100% sure and you're absolutely sure about going ahead with something, I guess I would still try to get it done earlier in the week, though. Again, not because it's such a bad time for you to do things, but because the reaction, you know, if you're going to do anything with anyone else around, well, then you're going to have to count on their reaction, and they may not be as mindful as you or people like myself, right? So, you know, you want to be cautious of that. Even if you're in a good spot, it doesn't mean everybody else is. So it's a little bit of, it's not a setting intention time. It's a time to see what's manifesting, see what is already coming up, see what is on the table, see what is coming up onto the table, and figure out how you're going to deal with it. Now, if something does come up that is a pressing matter, something that shows up and has to be dealt with, deal with it, right? Don't defer if it's something that needs to be dealt with. If it's something that you need to strike now in order to get this thing done, do it. Strike while the iron is hot, because the iron is indeed going to be very hot. If you can wait a couple of days or a week, that's probably better. You know, again, give yourself time to process. But deer in the headlights doesn't benefit from standing and staring. Okay, so if there is something, I've got to do this now. Maybe it's an opportunity. I don't talk about it as though it's a dire type of thing. And I think for many people, it's going to feel like that. Let's look at what's going on in the world. It doesn't, you know, it's not a lot of bubbly, happy stuff. But it could be something that's good for you. If an opportunity comes up and it feels good and it feels right, take it. You don't have to defer it. You don't have to put it on the back burner. But don't necessarily go ahead with something if you're unsure about it. All right. Said the same thing 15 different ways. Get something done, get it done earlier in the week. If you've got something to do, get it done by about the end of Wednesday. Thursday through next Monday, the 13th, I would say you want to essentially back off, be mindful, see what goes on. Don't initiate unless you're 100% sure. Respond if you absolutely need to. Otherwise, defer. and take a few deep breaths. This would be a very good time for you to get out the meditation book. It would be a very, very good time for you to, you know, do whatever that thing is that makes you feel a little bit better at times of stress. The stress may not be yours. It's ours. It's ours. It's our collective stress, but it's real. I'll see you next week. Almost certainly.